A new season has begun, and while transformation is inevitable for many, your life will remain the same if this is the way you want it to be. However, you can change your life with a better plan from Lifeline Financial Programs. Begin fortnightly cash installments with any amount, then watch your finances multiply into thousands of dollars as you create a brand new future. Life is not a dream. You only get what you put in. We know you cannot do it alone. And this is why Lifeline Financial Programs created the best financial plans to help you transform your life. Guaranteed. Call us now at 540-4555 or email us at lifelinebvilimited@gmail.com for more information.
Lifeline Financial Programs, the gateway to a better future.
Greetings, and of course, welcome to another episode of the Raw Truth. And it is absolutely an honor just being here with you again as we share and continue to bring you some very important information as it happens across the world. I am sure that most of us have been following the news, and well, from whatever source you are able to connect. I think it is important that we follow what is happening across the world, because if we do not keep our ears glued to the source, or to a source, a credible source, a lot of things are going to catch us off guard. And it is even more critical now than it was last week or last month or even last year, because a whole lot of things are happening right now which, if we do not keep our ears glued, it's gonna catch us by surprise. Yes, it will catch us by surprise. So I can only encourage you to keep your ears glued. Keep your ears glued, because when the day is over, it gets a lot more serious. It is getting a whole lot more interesting, and a whole lot more is happening right now, which I'm sure we cannot afford to miss. As usual, we give thanks every Monday evening at 8 as we come for the Raw Truth. We give thanks for the trees, the waters, the flowers, the birds, the bees. We give thanks for all good things we have, our jobs, for our source of earning. We give thanks for those who have been standing with us. We give thanks for those who have been working with us. We give thanks for all the good things you have had over the past week, the past month, the past year, the past years. We must give thanks. It's a very good thing to do. When the day is over, we have to maintain a very thankful heart if we're going to avoid getting depressed and all the crap that's going on right now. If you follow what is going on, I'm telling you, you will definitely fall off guard. You will take it serious. Many people dying of heart attack and bad, what do you call it, bad stomach and bad kidney and bad all kind of something going bad, because many people are taking it very seriously and the stress is getting to many of us. But when we live thankfully and we appreciate where we are and appreciate what we are and what we have, then I'm sure we will avoid unnecessary stress. So we give thanks as usual on a Thursday, on a Monday evening. We give thanks. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm checking checking the chat. Yes, please be sure to share this broadcast with your friends. And of course, as we continue to share, we continue to dig in as we continue to share some very interesting information with you. We have a very interesting guest this evening, and he is actually sitting in the waiting room, waiting for us to open the door to him. But before we get there, let me get into News Buzz, and then when we come back, we go to our guest, Mr. John Isaacs. We come back in a moment. We, as usual, must continue to be watchful. And when the day is over, so much is happening, and it is really crazy when you look at some of the crazy things that are happening across the world. I'm going to send out a very strong warning in this broadcast, a very strong warning, because I'm seeing a trend developing, and this trend is nothing that any of us should take lightly. I think once you live in a community and there's a church there, the church is expected to function within a certain capacity within the community. But it seems to me nowadays that bishops and pastors are all about grabbing as much offering as they can and stuffing their back pockets. And when the day is done, people are suffering like hell and no one cares. And watch what is happening when people get hungry. I'm going to play a video for you in Newsbuzz this evening, and this is perhaps quite disturbing. I think we need to stop and start thinking, because it doesn't get any worse. Watch this.
A Brooklyn bishop was robbed at gunpoint in the middle of his Sunday sermon today, and it was all caught on camera. The service was being live streamed this morning when he says 3 to 4 men walked in with guns. He spoke at length with CBS 2's Lisa Rosner about why he believes he was targeted and his message for the suspects.
5 to 10 minutes into preaching Sunday morning on Remsen Avenue in Canarsie, Bishop Lamore Whitehead saw the door in the back of the room kick open.
How many of you have lost your faith because you saw somebody else die what you about to go through? Yo, all right. I seen 3 to 4 men come in. I said, all right. It's pretty much stating that I'm not going to do anything, right? Because I know y'all coming for me. Y'all coming straight to me. I don't want my parishioners hurt, right? I got women and children there. As I got down, one went to my wife and took all her jewelry and had the gun in front of my 8-month-old baby's face. Took off my bishop's ring, my wedding band, and took off my bishop's chain, and then I had chains underneath my robe. He started tapping my neck to see if anything else. So that means they knew. They watched and they knew that I have other jury.
The church's live stream shows the gun being held on the pastor.
They had the guns on my deacons that was at the door.
Whitehead says what you don't see on camera are around 100 congregants who were in the room. Men, women, and children dropped to the floor in silence.
My church is traumatized. The women and children are still crying. Still crying. Babies are still crying.
Police say the men took off in a white Mercedes. Whitehead says cops have a license plate and witnesses saw the men change clothes outside.
These men, they need to turn themselves in. I forgive you, and I'm praying for you. You know, and I hope that God deliver you from the mindset of who you are at this time.
Whitehead believes his family was targeted because of the publicity he received when he helped turn in the suspect wanted in the fatal subway shooting of 48-year-old Daniel Enriquez in May.
I turned them in, but the media called me the bling bling bishop. They had my Rolls Royce car all over everywhere, and I feel that played the part in this. I think all pastors should be able to get permits for pistols.
The NYPD is investigating, and Whitehead says the mayor and top police brass have called him, pledging support to find the suspects. Fortunately, no one was hurt.
Now, I hope you were following that very carefully, because I'm quite concerned. The bishop is now saying that he wants clergymen like himself, to get a pistol. When I was a boy going to church, and when I was told by a colleague of mine that a man said he was out the road and he was coming down the church to make trouble. And he saw lightning flashing around his foot. He had to run like a thief. The first time you go to church, is fire. Church is fire, right? Now, this bishop is advocating for clergymen, bishops, to get a firearm. Isn't church a place where the power of God is? I'm confused, really. That's point one. Point two, I advise our bishops and pastors who are living in all communities wherever you live. This is my advice to you. People are going to start getting hungry like hell. Hungry. Before you stand up in church on a Sunday morning and hungry people what you're collecting offering and what you're coming in with your jewelry and what you're coming in with all kinds of valuables, and they're hungry. You know what they're going to be tempted to do? Rob you. Because they want to rob you? No. Because they're hungry. Now, I'm going to sound a little weird this evening. But please, my beloved brothers and sisters, if you're involved in a church or your bishop or whoever watching this program, make sure that you look out for the people in your community. If you can walk free now, tomorrow may not be the same. Politicians, the same thing. For all of us who can walk freely right now without being molested by people walking around with guns and knives or whatever else, because they're hungry and they want food. All they want is food. Reach out to the people in your community to help them, that they don't have to get to the place where they become frustrated so bad that they have to walk into church to come and rob your jewelry and take away your money and whatever else you have in your pocket. It's a very serious matter. I had to play this video because when I saw it, I said, my God, is this where we really are? Are we so careless that we don't care about nobody at all, not even in church? Come on. Finally, before we move on, there's another matter which I think we need to look at. And I was able to snatch a part of this presentation. French court ordered 4G antenna switched off over cow health concern. Over cow health. Over cow health. I laughed when I saw it. The French are still laughing. The French court ordered 4G antenna switched off over cow health concerns. Cow. My beloved brothers and sisters, do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to do yourself a favor, because when the day is done, while we live in a technologically advanced world, and while we know that we have to at least endure some of the crazy things that are happening in the name of development, I'm searching for something that I think I need to recommend that you get for me. I'm going to ask you to do something for me, because I think when the day is over, you can save not only yourself, but your family. Because not all of us, please share this, because it's critically important for you to hear this. Share this, share. Don't allow me to finish without you sharing this, because I'm passing on some very, very important information to you tonight. We are now moving into 5G, 4G, 5G. That is where we are. You're going to see a lot of crazy things happening. Right now with 4G plus, where we are, a lot of people are now having tetanus and bad sleep at night and all kinds of things that tell you that could happen as a result of exposure to these EMF frequencies. I'm going to ask you to go to, on your phone, go to the App Store and download an ElectroSmart EMF detector. EMF detector, ElectroSmart. Go to your App Store, whether you do Android app or whatever app you do. Yes? Type in ElectroSmart EMF detector. It's a blue, it has a blue circle on it. Let me get this out. Let me show you. You see that thing there? Yes, that is the one I'm talking about. EMF detector with that blue thing there. Yes, I'm showing it to you. And what this will help you to do, when you're close to EMF sources, it will show you, or it will tell you, how strong your exposure is to the EMF source. In other words, EMF is electromagnetic frequency, or in other words, I call it radiation. These things, while your modem inside your house, you use it for your internet, and I'm being very modest, yes. You use it for your internet services, and when the day is done, they can be good to have around. But if the frequency gets too high, if your exposure is high, then you're gonna have serious problem. As I said earlier, many people are having tetanus and all of these things right now, and they are not even aware that the electromagnetic frequency is, for the most part, what is creating the problem. Now I'm going to show you what this meter is telling me. On my smartphone, it is showing me that my exposure level is 60 over 100, which is, they call it moderate. They call it moderate exposure. Yes? Exposure is reasonable and suits most people, they say. Yes? You have 3 areas on it. You have the green bar, the orange bar, and the red bar. If you find yourself in an area where your exposure is in the red, 70 yard, 80 yard, 90 yard, you're in trouble. We need to talk. What you need to do, especially when you're going to bed at nights, turn off your modem. I'm not sure why I'm getting into this now, but it is something that we need to do, because when the day is done, high exposure to EMF, um, to electromagnetic, high exposure to electromagnetic frequency can make you sick. If you are close to a source, move back. The further away you move, the less the radiation will be. If you cannot turn it off, move away from it. And I'm talking about your modems, because some of these modems nowadays spit in some high frequency. I'm just saying this to help you to understand, because some people are going to be getting sick. Right now, as it is, and I'm going back there, the French government is telling you to, is telling people, telling the telephone company, whatever it is, to the court ordered 4G antenna switch off over cow health. Nobody's talking about the health of the man or the woman. It's cow health they're talking about. Cow. I'm going to sound funny. Right? French government talking about cow health, not people health. Cow. They want the 4G antenna switch out because the milk is getting low and they're not getting enough milk and cows dying over 4G. They want them switch off. Cows. Nobody's talking about man. I am saying to you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in your own best interest, monitor, and this is reasonable for me to say, monitor your exposure. Monitor it. Yes, make sure that you monitor your EMF exposure. Don't sit down close to your modem all day, all night, because some of them think kicking out some serious germs, like serious frequency. And when the day is done, if you're not aware of what is happening, you're going to put yourself in trouble. So this is all for this evening. Next week, we have some more to help you to take care of yourselves, because when the day is done, goodness gracious, if nobody is doing it, then you have to do it for yourself. Never take it for granted that government cares about you. Government don't care about you. Don't fool yourself. The time has come for you to take care of yourself. It now becomes your duty. All right. Take care of yourself. We'll come back in a minute.
The Week in Review, a PSI News Buzz presentation.
Goodness gracious, welcome back. And my gosh, it's absolutely interesting as we move forward. So much is happening, and when the day is done, we cannot help but being vigilant about what is happening around us. And of course, when the day is done, for those of us who may not even be aware or affected by some of what is happening, it's just a matter of time. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Remain vigilant, because when the day is done, if you don't try to save yourself, no one will save you. Don't expect the police or your government or the preacher or the bishop or whoever else the hell it is to save you. Nope. Nobody can save you. You have to save yourself. And I'm going to be very practical about these things. Welcome to The Raw Truth. For those of you who are new here, please subscribe to our channel, PSI Net Vision. On Facebook, PSI Net Vision. On LinkedIn, PSI Net Vision. On Twitter, and the PSI live broadcast, PSI TV live broadcast on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please like our channel. Make sure that you stay connected, that when we come back the next time around, you will be updated. We have a very interesting gentleman with us, and when the day is done, we've been chatting a little bit here and there every now and again, and I like talking with him because I think he's a conversationalist. In quotes, I put that. um, very knowledgeable. And we've been focusing on Jamaica since the other day, looking at some of the things that are happening there. And of course, it's very interesting uh, as we continue to examine the uh, the notion. I put that in quotes again. As to exactly what is happening in Jamaica. It is not a joke at all. I think Jamaica has a lot happening there, and the implications very serious in relation to what may be happening across the region as we see it happening in Jamaica. I said it the other day that Jamaica seems to be the hub of the Caribbean region, perhaps much the more so at one point. But I think it still remains a very important place within the Americas to watch. Um, and we have been looking at some of the things happening in Jamaica, and of course, examining some of the um, uh, developments in relation to uh, what we have been seeing coming out of Jamaica, that I'm now seeing happening in Barbados, in Trinidad, in St. Vincent. It seems quite interesting as we watch these things develop. Huh? Um, we have this evening with us Mr. John Isaacs, and of course, he's um, a, a health and a free choice advocate in Jamaica. A man who has many roots, if I should say, many hats, very connected across Jamaica. And we have him here tonight to have a very interesting chat with him as we look at what is happening in Jamaica. Mr. Isaacs, greetings
How
and
are you, Kenny? Mr. Isaacs? No, man, you just make me sound like I'm an old man.
yeah. I was told by one of the wisest man, experience is wisdom. So I'm sure your your level of experience has definitely kicked you way above way beyond the curb in relation to what I've been hearing in many places. How are you, my brother? How is it going down there? Talk with me.
I'm good. I'm good. And I must say how you started the show, and you have me downloading the app myself.
Yes.
And my own was saying 59.
Good. Wonderful. Because it is good to manage these things. I think we have not been, you see, knowledge is power now. And the more we know, the better we're able to protect ourselves, to manage our affairs in a way that makes sense, not just to us, but to those around us. And I think it is something that most all of us need to begin to look at as we move into the 5G era. It becomes a very interesting matter to watch these things as they develop.
Hold on, Kenny, back to the 5G. You know,
Yes.
during the whole COVID, I remember there was a video that was floating around, maybe late 2020.
Yes.
That it seemed that all of the places that had 5G in America and around the world had the highest level of COVID-19 infection.
Wow.
And the
Talk to us on
gentleman was pointing out to the various cities that had 5G and the COVID-19 infections that was there, and it was matching up. I mean, just of interest.
Wow.
Hello.
No jokes at all, brother. That is serious. That is absolutely serious.
And I remember it because it affected Jamaica to a degree that Jamaicans saw a 4G tower
Yes.
and broke it down because they thought it was 5G. So Flo had to come out and say, listen, we only have 4G, we don't reach 5G yet.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord, it is a serious matter, and I think when the day is done, we have to manage it. It is. I think we need to manage it. It is something that we need to manage in a way that is going to make sense to us as we move forward, and we need the equipment to be better able to not only protect ourselves from it, but in many cases to shield the the frequencies. I think that they are now making clothing to shield it. They are making blocks or shields you can put up in your house to keep out. They're making paint to paint your wall that you can block it out. There's a lot of things they're doing right now to reduce exposure to EMF. So yes, at least for right now, while they're increasing the strength, and I think they're doing it gradually, watching to see how how used to we will get with it. It becomes a very serious matter, and I'm not sure if for those people who are now having tetanus and ears ringing like hell and all kinds of things happening, I hope we're realizing that exposure to these frequencies can cause these things to happen. Yes, it is a very serious matter, and it ought not to be taken lightly at all.
But
Let us look at.
Yeah, go on.
No. Well, looking at social consciousness in Jamaica, let's talk about Jamaica because that is where you are.
Mm-hmm.
But on the ground, in relation to social consciousness, in relation to the people's awareness of these things, in relation to the people's awareness of what is happening across the region and the world, what have you been seeing? Is there an awakening happening there from what you're seeing? Talk with us.
Well, what is happening is that there has been a distrust. People would call it an awakening, but I think it more had to do with the fact that our history has led us to a point where our trust of authority, the government, the opposition, was at an all-time low. So people, when pandemic came around, there was 6 months worth of panic for everybody, because we didn't know what it was. But after a while, I think people started to do their own investigation and just did not accept the word of the authority at face value. So Jamaica, without having any protests, just did not take up the vaccination, regardless of what the government tried. The Ministry of Education came out and said, they're going to close down the schools, and the schools are not going to open unless there is is that better?
Yes. Let me
Or you want it behind me?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, what? So they came out with this idea that they weren't going to have face-to-face until 60% of the school population was vaccinated.
Right.
And it didn't work.
Wow.
Only the same amount of adults that got vaccinated, the same amount of children that got vaccinated, which was around 20%. So when it came around January, they literally had to open it back up, and they literally had to say, well, forget about the mandate, because the people didn't take it on, which is a good lesson for everybody. A mandate is not, well, a law is only a law if you accept it. I met I have a story. I met a Irish gentleman who is working at Digicel, and he said that Jamaicans remind him of the Irish, and he found the country very interesting. And I said, why? He says, you're not a real country. And I said, what do you mean we're not a real country? He said, the laws seem to be a suggestion here. people decide if they're going to follow them or not. And, you know, it brought back to the discussion that you and I had that compliance is how people rule. You can only rule by compliance. People have to accept what you say is valid and follow suit. Once you have that, then you have a functioning society based on the rules that you have put up. But if this society says no, then unless you can enforce it, you have no power. And that's what happened in Jamaica. They couldn't get the people to take on the vaccine. They tried to use the private sector to force people, but the private sector is a small group of people who really wouldn't affect the vast majority of Jamaicans. So
Right.
the government just got quiet. As a matter of fact, they got frustrated and just basically said, "Listen, you guys do what you want to do because you're not listening to us."
I heard people like Sprague Benz warning hell. You know, I found that thing so interesting. I was hoping I could find that video to play. Sprague Benz was technically warning the prime minister. Said, "Listen, heads gonna roll down King Street if you people do X, Y, Z and all of that." I said, "Boy, the man brave."
Well,
But-
you know,
But
I think we have, as I said to you before, though, we have indoctrinated our people to be very nationalistic.
yes,
And when the rumor started that the government or that the countries were going to give away our sovereignty to the WHO for the next pandemic, that is why Sprague Benz and other Jamaicans, it wasn't just him alone.
right.
Other Jamaicans put out things saying, don't you dare try and give away our sovereignty.
Yeah, I was following it and I said, "Wow!" I when I saw it, I said, "My goodness gracious!" I said, "Wow." It's like Jamaicans make their mind up to hell or high water, brother. This is not what we want for ourselves, and that was unique. I see Barbados doing the same thing as well. I'm not sure what's happening in Trinidad, but it seemed to be rubbing off, and this is one of the reasons again why I said that Jamaica seems to be the hub in the region, which most of our brothers and sisters across the region seem to follow what happens what is happening in Jamaica in a very serious way. You look at the whole what you call it, the biometric thing that was happening down there, which
Yeah.
was they were trying to establish the ID system that fell through. The people said, "Hell no, we don't want it."
That is
Because-
where in Trinidad or Barbados.
No, I'm talking Barbados actually fought
Oh.
against it as well.
Yes.
You're talking about the Constitutional Court in Jamaica actually throwing it out eventually, that it was unconstitutional. I found that very interesting as well. So it seems to me that Jamaica, just by virtue of the nature of the people, have been very quietly making some very serious statements, and I'm watching it to see exactly what might be happening as we move forward. Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I mean, the churches have been very vocal in terms of their views, and the reality is that Jamaicans have become very distrustful of their government. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing,
Yes.
because I've always been wary of people with power. I think the best way to deal with power is never to trust them and force them to always try and get your trust.
Yes.
I think you can't lose if you don't trust people with power.
Well, there you go.
You know, so but I understand that you know, a lot of Jamaicans have been disappointed throughout the decades in terms of the leadership of our country. So they have just gone ahead and done their own thing.
There you go.
You know?
Tell me something. I noticed that while other nations, people, St. Vincent, Barbados, most of these places have been having protests for different reasons. Jamaica seemed not to get involved in that at all. Is it that the people are so resolute or what? What has created this? I mean, you don't see much protest in Jamaica at all. Tell me about that.
I think because inherently we are a very aggressive and possibly very violent people. I have been in groups where the discussion about protests have been mentioned, and people have, and the number one worry is that it gets out of hand and turns into mayhem. Now, the smaller islands tend to be a lot more civil than we are. Um, so,
Wow.
I mean, I saw something in Trinidad where there was a protest and the police came and was shooting tear gas at the people, and all the people were doing was just running back up and down. Something like that happening in Jamaica. One for sure, them picking up that tear gas and throwing it back at the police.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then stones are going to fly, and then if them fire something, gunshot could be back and forth. I mean, things like that. Our history tells us that you really don't want to if you don't have a proper organized protest, you don't go out on the road,
Wow.
because
It
things
is
can
that
can just escalate.
it is that serious.
Yeah. Our people have said it around the region, and I think it is true. Our people are probably the most aggressive of everybody in this region. I
Wow.
can't compare to Haiti, but I know in the English speaking, we are probably the most aggressive set of people.
Wow. Very interesting points to make. For those of you who joined us later on in the discussion, please share with your friends, because this will get a lot more interesting as we move into the evening. Let me ask you this: is Jamaica's position as this influence in Jamaica? Because this is quite influential. Do you think this is catching on? But then again, St. Vincent have been popping every now and again. I'm not seeing much happening down there of late. Maybe I'm out of touch with it. I'm really not seeing a lot happening across the region. But do you think that the approach, the Jamaican approach, do you think that is catching on across the region?
I would think it. I would think that there is an opportunity for it to be happening. I mean, all of us have a common history. All of us, we must remember. Everybody had a slave revolt in every single island. There is not one island where our ancestors did not fight for their freedom.
Wow.
So let us not think that we are a bunch of pacifists. We are not. We were, those of us who have African descent was brought here and our ancestors fought for their freedom. So the spirit is still there.
Wow. We have with us Mr. John Isaacs, and of course he is a very good friend of mine, a freedom of choice and health advocate. And of course, he is here having a very serious discussion with us in relation to what is happening in Jamaica. One point to note, though, it is quite interesting that he has that he highlighted the fact that Jamaicans can be quite aggressive in relation to these matters. Protests and all of that. Jamaicans don't necessarily protest a lot at all, because it's either they get what they want, or it's hell and high water. It seems, from what he's saying to me, it could escalate quite quickly if the authorities tend to be disrespectful. I put that in quotes, and firing stuff at them and all kind of things. I mean, when the day is done, to protest is your constitutional right. However, when the day is done, from what I've been seeing nowadays, it seems that most authorities do not want the people to even protest. I was told that in St. Vincent, if you protest there, it's criminal to do so. I found that to be crazy. Some of the laws, and I put that in quotes, or the legal statutes that some of these prime ministers are putting in place is absolutely questionable. I'm not sure how the hell you could tell your people that they can't protest, and if they protest, it is criminal to do so. What about the right of the man to express himself in a way that is going to tell his leaders, if they don't want to listen, that they are upset with what they're doing? Isn't this what is just and right for people to do, providing you do it decently? But that is the case there. I was told that it is now becoming an illegal matter in St. Vincent to protest. And that is highly interesting to note. Yes? My brother, listen, the digital currency that was introduced as we go along, and I'm going to have you take this up to the hour. The digital currency which was introduced the other day in Jamaica, what is happening with it now? And any word on it? How are the people soaking it up? Is it going any place down there?
It doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be. I mean, NCB is the only person with a wallet, and they are advertising hard. And my impression is that they are not getting the coverage that they wanted. As a matter of fact, the Bank of Jamaica came out with an official statement saying that they were being told that the digital currency was the mark of the beast, and they were denying it, that it was not.
It's the mark of the beast. So the people don't want it. And the thing is, the Jamaican populace is absolutely very religious as well, and that must be noted too.
And I said to somebody one day that if you have people saying that this is the mark of the beast, right or wrong, how are you going to get them to do it?
Precisely, you see.
Because this is now their eternal soul you're talking about.
Oh, Lord. Well, my brother, to be frank with you, however you want to put it when the day is over, it will be a matter where you will have to accept the system. If you're going to buy or sell or do business or whatever else, that is where they're heading, actually.
Yeah, but I don't think they have that power, though. I mean, I'm a firm believer in as I said, in the fact that I use Jamaica as a good example, that we did not have a unified front, but people got knowledgeable and people made collective views and decisions, and politicians and doctors and so-called leaders of commerce could not convince them that they needed to follow what they said. And that is the truth, that nothing can be implemented unless we accept it.
Wow.
And Kenny, you brought up something that of interest. 5G is something that Russia has, and they only use it as a weapon.
Well, there you go.
They don't use it they only go to 4G. They don't use 5G because 5G, when you intensify it, can, as you have just pointed out, can damage you.
Yeah, man.
Right? So the question is, we are running down this technology and nobody's asking, do we really need it? Is it really that important? Do we necessarily need to move to this point in technologies? Is it serving us?
Well, the arguments is that a doctor could be in France and operate on a patient in Jamaica, and by virtue of the density of the frequency, it opens itself to precision in relation to automotive travel. It opens itself in relation to such medical operations and so on and so forth. So that's one argument. But at the same time, you look at the effect on the cells in relation to how, while that is doing what it has to do, at what cost is it going to be to the man or the woman exposed to it? As I mentioned earlier, France actually shutting down 4G because they said it mashing up them cows, and the cows can't produce no milk and all of that. And nobody's careful about the man or the woman. And the problem is, if even if people are not sensitive to these things, at least on the offset, at some point down the road, it is going to become a problem. It is that simple.
Well, here my question to you, Kenny. Are we healthier than our ancestors?
Not at all. Not at all.
Therefore, how is 5G going to help us if our ancestors, our grandparents, our great-grandparents were healthier than us? Why don't we try and find out how we get back to that stage? Because obviously we have slipped down the road. nature is all about survival of the fittest, and this generation is less fit than the one before.
Wow.
You know what I
Very-
mean?
very
We're going in the
serious
wrong
matter.
direction. We're eating
Yes,
the
I'm
wrong
sure.
food. We're doing the wrong things.
Wow. But now is this the price we have to? Well, I guess this is the 2 or 3 or 4-fold question, because now while it might be beneficial in one way, it might be affecting us in maybe 3, 4, 5 other ways. Is that the price we pay for efficiency even?
But is it really efficient? Because if you're saying that a medical doctor can make an operation in France to Jamaica, and
Yes.
Jamaicans are dying from the 5G that is here, how does it help?
Ah,
How does it help the health of the nation?
there you go.
What
now.
he might save one person while 5 or 6, 7 or more than that die out.
Well, it is quite in sync, sir. When the day is done, you're talking about the fact. Listen, Bill Gates tell us that too much people in the world. So what the hell?
No, but that's not true. Listen, the world,
you're talking about killing as much of them as you can, isn't it?
listen, the world can supply everybody's needs. It just can't supply everybody's wants.
Yes.
And that is why we are in the problem that we are in, because we have forgotten that with needs everybody survives. With wants are endless. It's infinity.
Yes.
You know, the man who has $1 billion is still not satisfied with $1 billion,
Yes.
right? So where does it end? Where
Well, I
does
tell
one-
you, it gets worse, because now, my good friend, Brother Schwab, is saying that by 2050, 4 billion useless eaters will be gone.
Yeah, because of AI.
4 billion. I mean 4 billion with a B. Useless eaters, in quotes, will be gone.
And so he's planning to get rid of 4 billion of us.
Well, too many people are in the earth. I mean, too many people. Bill Gates is now buying up all the land to make sure that he plant all the food to help humanity have food so they don't starve, based on what he's saying.
Well, the question is, do we want to live in their world, or do we want to live in our world?
So he's making sure. I heard one of his factories got burned down in France the other day. I think if that is where it was.
One of Bill Gates' factories?
Yeah, where they were producing artificial meat, because all of that is a technology now that they have and can produce meat in a factory. They don't need the cow and the chicken and all of that anymore. All they have to do is get a sample of the meat, and that is it. You take it to the lab and you reel out meat like you're reeling out rope.
How healthy is that meat going to be?
Well, they say it tastes good.
No. Taste is not healthy.
Taste. They
Sugar tastes good. Them says a poison.
Them say it tastes good. So I guess that again is another question. Listen, we're at a place, my brother, and the place we're at is an absolutely very, very, very interesting place in our history. And I have been saying it to our brothers and sisters that unless we go back to the land, of course now they are trying to make it even illegal to plant your own food. But when the day is done, we have the only way we're going to survive is from the land. There's no other way to do it right now. And when the day is done, food is going to get short in a while. All of that is going to happen. And when the day is done, if we're not planting and you don't have anything coming in from someplace, what the hell is going to happen when the supermarket shelf goes empty? This is where we're at. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to continue talking with Mr. Isaac in relation to what is happening down there in Jamaica and across the Central Americas. We'll come back in a minute.
A new season has begun, and while transformation is inevitable for many, your life will remain the same if this is the way you want it to be. However, you can change your life with a better plan from Lifeline Financial Programs. Begin fortnightly cash installments with any amount, then watch your finances multiply into thousands of dollars as you create a brand new future. Life is not a dream. You only get what you put in. We know you cannot do it alone. And this is why Lifeline Financial Programs created the best financial plans to help you transform your life. Guaranteed. Call us now at 540-4555 or email us at lifelinebvilimited@gmail.com for more information.
Lifeline Financial Programs, the gateway to a better future.
Welcome back, and we have with us Mr. John Isaacs out of Jamaica, and of course we're having quite a very interesting discussion as we move into the evening, and of course some very interesting topics here, very interesting highlights here as we examine what is happening not just in Jamaica but across the world. It's very interesting, so that we are seeing that it's very interesting to note that the biometric thing is not working in Jamaica at all. All this money that the government was giving away, people not even taking it on seriously. That's very interesting to note.
They're not taking it on, and they are about to roll out with the biometric passport and stuff. And again, the churches have said that it is the mark of the beast. So I don't know if them will have anybody turn up at the centers to go get their ID cards.
Wow. Let me ask you this. Is it that Jamaicans who left Jamaica have become too conditioned to the cultures they move into, thus becoming disconnected from the culture, which make them vulnerable based on their ignorance? You're talking about crime in Jamaica. You're talking about returning residents getting pulled up and shot and all kind of thing. How do you see this playing out? Talk with us.
Yeah, I think when you go to a first world country and you get used to how their system is, you take a lot of things for granted. I'm going to use Barbados as an example, because I have grown up in Jamaica and have experienced crime firsthand. I am very aware when I leave this island and I go anywhere else, I'm very conscious of my surroundings. And I remember years ago being at a Bajan carnival, and soldiers walked past me with a bunch of Bajans, and I noticed that they had submachine guns on them. And I said, "What, did your soldiers carry submachine guns?" And the Bajans did not even see it. They did not even notice that their police and stuff were walking with submachine guns.
Wow.
Right. So if you magnify that kind of ignorance to what happens to when a Jamaican leaves and goes to England and America and stuff, and they get used to the system, they come back to Jamaica not understanding that Jamaica is nowhere near there. And a lot of them come back after struggling so hard. They want to show off that they have done some stuff, which is fair. It's human nature, but they set themselves up.
Yep. I'm actually beginning to believe it, because when the day is done, the fact that one would have lost connection with the culture, one would definitely become vulnerable. And this as well. But I'm watching a trend as well, my brother. The Americas, within the region, people are moving into Canada, moving into America, into America, moving into England, moving away from the region. But watch this: the Caucasians are moving in, and the Chinese and everybody are moving. They're the ones who are flooding into the region, while our people are moving out. Can you explain that?
Because the Chinese are coming in for opportunity. Remember, China has a problem. China has more men than women. You didn't know that? China has more men than women.
But
because of
Chinese,
their one.
but the Chinese man is not even hooking up with the people within the region. Is that the case?
Well, Chinese men don't care. They will hook up with anybody. They don't care. I mean, that has been. I mean, some of my closest friends are Chinese. That generation of Chinese, they didn't care, and this generation don't care.
Wow.
So, and it's happening in Africa. In Africa, a lot of Chinese men married
Uh-huh.
Africans.
There you
Because
go
the
now.
reality is that because of what China had done with only allowing one child to a family, a lot of families were killing their daughters because they wanted their sons. Their sons is who mind them when they get older.
Wow. Killing their daughter, you said?
Sons are who is expected to take care of the parents. Huh?
Wow. Killing their daughters, you said,
Yeah, they were killing their daughters
Wow.
because they could only have one child. So if you had one child and it was a daughter, you didn't have the chance now of having somebody look after you. So they would kill that child and try again.
What the hell? Wow. Please share this, my beloved brothers and sisters. Yes, serious information. I can't believe that we have come to that place. Not a joke at all. So yes, I've been watching the influx of Chinese and Americans and Canadians and British people into the region while our people run away from the blissful lands we have come to know. I think that is quite interesting.
Yeah, but you know what is unique in Jamaica? When you are a foreigner, your life is a lot less threatened than when you're a Jamaican.
A lot less threatened, you say?
A lot less threatened. Because the police and everybody kind of puts this thing that our tourists are very important. They come down hard, very hard. They come down like wild army ants when a foreigner is injured in this country. So foreigners walk all over the place. I mean, I have met people who literally walk downtown. One gentleman, when they were thinking of bringing the cruise ship to Kingston, the gentleman who brought the cruise ship, the first one, he came off the ship by himself and walked the whole of downtown to see how safe it was. And this was in the night. No,
wow.
I wouldn't be walking downtown by myself at 7 o'clock in the evening.
No. That really happened, or is just a story you're telling me?
No, that really happened. It was in the newspaper. He made the statement that he walked around and was quite comfortable with the fact that nothing happened to him. And of course, nothing would happen to him.
Wow.
So this was also the time when Dudos was around, right? So downtown was a completely different environment.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
But even then, when Dudos was around, we had groups of people from Europe and from Japan and China coming down and going into the inner city to dance hall parties and underground party, this tourism trade where people came to learn the dances.
Wow.
They weren't worried. They weren't worried at all. They were protected.
Wow. Tell me something. You're talking about crime in Jamaica, because this is one of the things which has, and I asked Doctor last week exactly what his take on this is. That many of our people who left the land and are now living in Canada and other places are afraid to go back there because of crime. I heard that the police was upgrading their thing the other day, and they've been stepping up their game. You think the police is doing enough to protect the interests of Jamaican people in that country?
They can't. There is a hopelessness that is downtown that has never changed. When I was 19, I stood with a friend of mine who brought me to Trinity, and the area done for the road said to me that he did not think, we were all 19, and he did not think he was going to live to 20th Street. If you go downtown now, you can ask 14-year-olds who will tell you that they don't think they will live to reach 19.
Seriously.
How are you going? Yeah, serious. How can you put a crime situation when you have to deal with, when you have that kind of reality in front of you, where people feel a level of hopelessness that as far as they're concerned, they are going to try and get what they can get now and live as big as they can live because they are going to die soon.
So that's the thinking on the ground in the inner city areas.
Yeah, and as I told you, I am now 57. So I'm telling you about something that has been happening for what? Nearly 40 years?
And
that's why so many
perhaps.
of us have left. So many Jamaicans have left because they see no opportunity for them here. So when they go abroad, they work themselves. Most of them are law-abiding citizens, and they acquire stuff, but they always want to come back home because home is home. But they are just not prepared for the home that they have left.
I need to say this at this point because for our viewers, for all our friends watching this program right now, it must be said, because the impression can be given that Jamaica in its total is as described by my brother a while ago. No, Jamaica has 3 counties. It has over 3 million people. And you're talking about Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey. Surrey being what?
14 parishes.
14 parishes. So what he's describing is what you have in what you call the garrison or the downtown areas of Kingston, Jamaica, which is the first
and
city.
in Montego Bay, it's called the inner cities.
Inner city. That's inner city life. You're talking about Montego Bay, which is the second city. You might find some of that in Montego Bay as well. However, when you leave Kingston and you start to move into the country, it becomes less intense.
Yes.
You're moving through the hills of Mandeville, the hills of Clarendon. Most of these parishes all the way into Montego Bay, which is the second city, which is at the far end of the island. You don't find most of these things happening there at all. So for most people, they don't know exactly what he's talking about. And for many people who left that country and are afraid to return, most of them would be perhaps from the inner city areas where they were experiencing stuff like what my brother is talking about. So that needs to be made very clear. It is not all parts of Jamaica, where I am from, because I'm from residential Mandeville as well. And it's beautiful up there. There's no, we don't know what you're talking about because it just don't happen that way there at all. It's a whole new, it's a whole different culture in the Manchester Mandeville area than it is in the Maypen Clarendon area.
No. Maypen has gotten very
Maypen has gotten nasty now, right?
Yes. Maypen, Spanish Town, of course Kingston, there, what you call it again, Montego Bay, some parts of Negril, Savlamar. Those areas have gotten hot.
And it seems that most of the heat is now moving out of Kingston into the to the interior of the country. That's what you're saying. Moving from the coastal areas to the inner.
Well, you see, the criminals move all over because sometimes when a place gets too hot for them, they will migrate.
Them have to cool off
to the rural areas. You know what I mean?
There you go. All right. Would you say Jamaica has become too nationalistic, perhaps?
Too? I don't think have we ever stopped being nationalistic?
Oh Lord.
I can't listen, I used to live in Trinidad. My two sons were born there. And they went to preschool. And when we moved back to Jamaica, my two sons did not know the national anthem of Trinidad and Tobago. Did not know nothing about Trinidad and Tobago,
Oh Lord.
um, from a civic point of view. Within
Oh
6 months of us moving back to here, they knew everything about Jamaica, who the national heroes were, the pledge, the national anthem, the fruits. We indoctrinate our people. We are probably one of the few countries in the world where all of us walk around with our colors on all the time. Jamaicans wear that Jamaican flag, that Jamaican color. People love us for it, but that is the blessing and the curse of Jamaica. We
Wow.
believe in this piece of rock so much that that is why Sprague Benz could tell the Prime Minister him warning him if him thinking we give away our sovereignty to any stranger.
We have with us
You know what I mean?
Mr. John Isaacs, and of course we've been we're having a very interesting chat as we assess what is happening in Jamaica, not necessarily in general, but we're looking at perhaps what is happening around the inner city areas, which perhaps is quite influential in relation to what transpires elsewhere, and this needs to be understood as well. I think Kingston has created quite a culture. You're talking about the reggae music culture. You talk about now the dance hall culture, which is now worldwide, and that in itself is creating a hell of a lot. But let me ask you this: in it, the way our women behave, man and woman story now. Do you think the reggae music or the dance hall culture has shaped the way our people behave at home? And that's where you.
Most definitely. Our dance hall music is an aggressive form of music. It affects you in that way. I mean, when you listen to the lyrics are is very it's very it's not cute. It's not calypso. It's not mento. It's very hard and in your face. It's like hip hop. It's on the same. It's street music, and so they speak about what they know. They speak about what their reality is, and that reality is very black and white. It's not there. There are
Wow.
no shades of gray.
Wow.
You know.
So our young people soaking up all of this, all these lyrics and the influence of this music. You're saying to me that it is affecting them psychologically, technically.
Well, it must. I mean, you and I grew up when soul music was the thing that we all grew up to. Remember when you and I
Uh-huh.
were kids, we all wanted to learn how to dance so we could hug up a woman and enjoy. The kids nowadays don't even dance with each other.
Oh Lord.
The
His
men
head
dance
top
by
is
themselves and the
is
women
his
dance.
head top and
It's all
skin up
about
and all kind of
it's a
wine are going
show.
out.
It's a show. So you
Wow.
so you are with your group of guys and you show off your skill to the other women and they show off their skill to you. I mean, and that's just because of the music. You know, we can you and I can realize that there is a difference just because of how
Wow.
we used to act. We used to act
Wow.
completely different.
I could never fit in right now, to be honest.
I don't even go.
I couldn't fit
I
in
don't even
because
go.
when you look at the extremes that one sees when you enter a dance hall, for example, or the extreme, it's frightening actually. I watch some of them on
But
YouTube. You look at some of the new dance and whatever else. It's frightening actually. I don't know how people do that kind of thing.
But I don't know if this happens in the rest of the region, but what is very interesting is that 70s, 80s parties are popular in Jamaica. And it's not
Wow.
just with the older people. Even the young kids appreciate or say that the music that is in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s are better than the music that are in the 20s.
Wow.
So they go to those parties.
Wow. So you're having 80s parties and 70s parties now.
Yeah, yeah, man, big. There was a massive one this weekend. Massive one this weekend.
Wow.
70s, 80s, and 90s.
Wow. So the people are gravitating But I guess everybody is quite awake when it is done. You realize that something is wrong with where we are now. The decency has been removed from us. It seems. If the 70s and the 80s bring back a certain level of decency, then so be it. I'm sure. The whole point is, from what I'm seeing with them women, they're on top of them head skinning out, and God, forget some of the things that I've seen. It's disgraceful, brother. I don't know when we have gotten to that place, and it is spreading all over the world. You watch even white people warming up to it. White people
Yes.
warming up to it, you know, brother. I
You
find
know,
it strange.
I am a firm believer in the idea that we are walking too far away from natural living,
Oh my
and it is
God.
corrupting our soul. You know, that's one of the things I realize with this pandemic is that people are forgetting that ultimately the responsibility is yours. So therefore, you know, when this pandemic came about and people were told that people who were overweight and had conditions were at risk, I didn't see any movement out there where they were nobody was saying them, well, why don't you go out and try and get yourself healthy? Why don't you go walking? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? You know? Um, and that is what worried me about this whole pandemic. That here is it, we had a pandemic that killed less than 1% of the population. And
Less than 1%.
nothing less than 1%. The
Wow.
pandemic in Jamaica, Zika, which was a 6 month pandemic which affected 70% of Jamaicans, killed more people in that timeline in a year than COVID-19.
Wow.
COVID-19 3,000 odd. Zika, after 6 months, when they did a year study of Zika, 2,600 people died from Zika in Jamaica.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
in my mind, what really affected us, which affected everybody, was this fear factor. We got afraid, and the fear was what was driving everything that was going on. You know,
I'm gonna ask you.
what I
I'm gonna
saw
ask you a
happen is
very.
that by
Go ahead. I wanted to finish that. I have a very serious question to ask. A
no,
very serious
what I
question.
found strange was what I realized is that the inner city people by October, November, because of the reality of their life, basically just gave up on and they just walked away from all the ideas of COVID-19. They weren't wearing their masks, they were socializing. And when I spoke to them, they were saying, we cannot be afraid of something we cannot see. We cannot continue to be afraid of something we cannot see. We have more pressing problems to deal with.
Wow. More pressing problems. So they just drop everything, and that was it for them.
So when the government was saying, get vaccinated and get back to normal, they had already gone back to normal.
Wow.
Without the vaccines.
Whoa.
They were having their parties, they were drinking their liquor, they were carousing with each other. You know?
Wow.
I used to go down to Coronation Market. Coronation Market never had an outbreak. How is that possible?
And it's always filled with people, right?
Always full from Thursday to Saturday. Always full with people. From all over the island. Remember, Coronation is where everybody comes and
Yes.
picks up stuff and then goes back out to everybody else.
That's the food basket of the city for sure. Yes, indeed.
Exactly. Did not have a massive outbreak in Coronation. One taxi man actually said, you know, he said as far as he was concerned, COVID was not a real thing because he didn't see any of his taxi friends catch COVID. And he said when Zika came and chikungunya, all of them got sick.
Oh Lord.
So as far as he was concerned, COVID-19 wasn't true.
This is my question to you. Do you think, given that reality in Jamaica, do you think, and let me welcome all our friends who are just joining us, wherever you're joining us from, please subscribe to the channel as you stick with us, yes? Let me ask you this, Mr. Isaacs. When you look at the new, there's a new thing coming out, the new, what do you call it, monkeypox thing. If COVID didn't stick in Jamaica, do you think monkeypox will stick?
No, 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 no. Nobody's paying attention. Also, okay, remember what is the number one cure for chicken pox in Jamaica?
Tell me.
Tamarind leaf.
Tambourine leaf.
And some herbalists tell me it worked for monkeypox. So I know once if it gets anything, people going to go boil up them tamarind leaf and bathe in tamarind leaf.
God have mercy. So at least this
And if
time
it
around, you know exactly where to go if you catch it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, well, I think we've had two cases. I think, and the first case is up to grab because the gentleman said it was chicken pox he had. He said he knew that he
Ah,
was in chicken. He was before he traveled. He was exposed to chicken pox, and he came here. So he don't know how them call it monkeypox when he knows chicken pox about.
Lord
So
have
that is
mercy.
so that is one case that we have dismissed. So there's no another case that they said is about. Two cases don't make a pandemic.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
So I don't understand how come the WHO is now saying that it is a question of concern because it isn't.
We have with us Mr. John Isaacs, and of course, goodness gracious, quite an interesting discussion we're having here. Please share this with your friends as we move into the half an hour. It gets a lot interesting as we gets very interesting as we take this down to the wire, examining what is happening in Jamaica, and unlike the rest of the Caribbean region, absolutely very interesting as we look at how things are in Jamaica. Our people resilient, or are they aggressively inclined to self sustenance? Is it that they are truly aggressive, or is it that the people are just maybe a little smarter than the average set? And I put smart in quotes. Yes, um, Jamaicans tend to be absolutely 100% on the cutting edge at all times. Whatever they do, they're always up there, out there. Jamaica is just Jamaica. Something about Jamaica. I was told that there's something about the land which makes the people so different. That's another discussion. But as we look at what is happening in that country, now I'm wondering, how are our brothers and sisters across the region warming up to this as they examine what is happening in their countries in relation to what is happening in Jamaica? Quite interesting. There is a there is a shift, my brother, from the conventional, and this I think is your pet subject, a shift from the traditional way of life to the now modernistic way of life, where grandma normally have a tank around the back. Now everybody hook up to the tap water system. Grandma normally plant cassava. Grandpa normally plant a lot of cassava and use the cassava to make bread, and a lot of jackfruit and tangerine and mangoes and all them things. Now everything is just so modernistic. Everything is on the supermarket shelf. What is happening in Jamaica in relation to the traditional, let's begin with the traditional water system? You still have tanks down there where people build them tank and full it up off the top of the house and uh, uh,
Kenny,
filter that for the house and all of that. Talk to me about that. What is happening
that is
there?
actually very interesting that you mentioned that because even in my neighborhood, people are actually doing exactly that. People are actually trying to gather their own water. Two of my neighbors, one neighbor actually built a massive 1,000-gallon tank underneath his house, which he then had um, the piping from the roof come straight down to it. Another gentleman, when he built his house, he built a tank underneath the house for that same reason. So there is still there is that self-reliance going on. Fruit trees are a natural part of everybody's home in this country. I mean, an
Mm-hmm.
expert told me that an expert in poverty came to Jamaica and said Jamaica cannot really be truly considered poor because they cannot starve. And his view was that because everywhere you go, and since he said it, I have looked, I've gone into the inner cities, I've gone into all the thing there. Fruit trees are all over the place. There is ackee, there is mangoes, there is breadfruit, there is people as a natural thing when you build a house, you plant a couple fruit trees in your house. And so Jamaicans now are actually going ahead because it has been reported that people are starting gardens, growing their own vegetables and stuff and things like that. Rumor has it that Asafa Powell has set up his own to get his own. Came on social media with that story, so people are being self-reliant.
You broke up there. You broke up there a while ago. Cassava Paul is setting up his own. What you said?
Oh, Asafa Powell has went on social media to show off that he has built a special kind of chicken coop so he can get his own eggs. He has chickens that is producing layers that is producing his own eggs. He don't have to buy eggs anymore.
You're talking about Asafa Powell, right? Our athlete. That's what you're talking about. That's who you're talking about.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Wow. Tell me something, because I want to wrap up on that note. Let me take a break and come back, and then we wrap up on the point of self-reliance, because this becomes a very critical matter moving forward. You're looking at wheat fields getting burnt and businesses getting burnt and all kind of things happening, and food will soon automatically become short. The ships will not be carrying enough food to the region as it normally did. What is going to happen within the Central Americas when the ships stop coming? Very serious question. We'll come back in a minute.
A new season has begun, and while transformation is inevitable for many, your life will remain the same if this is the way you want it to be. However, you can change your life with a better plan from Lifeline Financial Programs. Begin fortnightly cash installments with any amount, then watch your finances multiply into thousands of dollars as you create a brand new future. Life is not a dream. You only get what you put in. We know you cannot do it alone, and this is why Lifeline Financial Programs created the best financial plans to help you transform your life. Guaranteed. Call us now at 540-4555 or email us at lifelinebvilimited@gmail.com for more information.
Lifeline Financial Programs, the gateway to a better future.
Welcome back, and for those of you who joined us late, we thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we have a special guest with us this evening, Mr. John Isaacs out of Jamaica, and we're examining what is happening in Jamaica. We're looking at how that is affecting the rest of the region in relation to how the culture has expanded across Central Americas and other parts of the world. And of course, reggae music, dancehall music seem to be the number one fire, which has probably caught on. You're talking about all them dance and new dance. Yes, gosh, you see white people on top of them head dancing nowadays. I wonder what the hell is going on. It is so different to see people across the world, especially across the Central Americas. Dancehall seem to be second place across the region as a result of what is happening in Jamaica. You look at what is happening in Jamaica politically, that also has been catching on across the region in pretty much many ways. So there are a lot of similarities as we speak um, uh, coming out of Jamaica. Um, the question is, as we look at the implementation, I put that in quotes, of the new world order. You look at what is happening in Jamaica. You look at the stance the Jamaican people have been taking. You look at how they have been affected by all that is happening. You look at the influence of the Jamaican community across the region, and you wonder what will happen into the end of this year, into next year, in relation to most of the things that they are now buzzing, that they want to have implemented, not just across the world, but within the Caribbean region as well. Very, very, very important to note. There has been the matter of food production. You look at the whole system of food. As you mentioned earlier, a lot of people uh, uh, the people can't be hungry in Jamaica because you have so much going on there. You look at the fact that people are more conscious, perhaps, of their water supply and all of that. Should there be a food shortage coming into the region? How badly do you think this would affect Jamaica?
It's going to affect. Listen, it's going to affect everybody because everybody has gotten used to wheat, and so flour is probably the biggest commodity in the region. Everybody uses it for bread and crackers, and a lot of the items that are in the supermarket are flour based. The question is how healthy that is, and if you go healthy, how much of it do you actually need? One of the things why to be honest, I'll tell you this, when I was, other than loving Jamaica and liking the culture, when I moved back with my family, I also realized that Jamaica was a very fertile country. We have a lot of stuff that we grow, yam and cassava and a lot of these things. There was a news item recently where the government has engaged Cuba to provide us with cassava and something else, flour, to substitute the wheat.
Yes.
And that is, that is something that all of us can do. I mean, yam and potato and stuff like that is things that all of us can grow. All of us just need to start. Why wait until the famine is upon us before we prepare for it?
But from what you're seeing, sir, because I know there was a very vibrant farming community in Jamaica. You're talking about them people in the Clarendon Hills and the St. Mary Hills. St. Mary. You talk about them people across Portland and all those places. Lots of yam and foods coming out of these places. I'm not sure if you're aware of what is happening there now, but is it that we still have, of course, Carnation Market should be a reflection of what is happening across the nation in terms of the food that you are seeing there on a weekly basis. Is
And
that
it
correct to say?
fluctuates based on supply. So
Right.
the food hasn't increased to that great amount because sometimes the supply is more than the demand, so the prices go back down. I mean, for the 2 years I was there, I watched the prices go up and come back down, go up and come back down. So in terms of basic items, I think we have done pretty well. I mean, there is, other than what I just told you about the government, which I thought was a great plan. There's a lot of cassava.
I agree. Yes, I agree totally. Because when the day is done, I mean, if Jamaica is not able, or any other nation within the region is not able to supply the food it needs, there has to be some alliance with some place, just in case, to make sure that we can supply ourselves in a way that is going to make sense to the nation. I'm not sure if the region is putting that plan in place to ensure that there is food security options in place just in case that becomes necessary.
That is true. I'm wondering that myself. But in my mind, it is everybody's individual responsibility. Let me just say this to you, Kenny. Regardless of what is happening, regardless of what the WEF, the New World Order, is supposed to do, if we all become more self-responsible, self-reliant, it cannot hurt us.
I agree.
Even if the worst don't happen, even if the best happen, you
Totally.
being more reliant on yourself and on your friends cannot be a negative thing for you.
Totally agree. Absolutely.
Right? You know, I am, you know, I have 3 boys, and I am pointing out to them that, listen, you guys need to learn how to take care of yourselves, because I don't want my daughter-in-law to tell me that I raised 3 worthless boys.
Yes.
You know, so
my
in
grandmother
mind,
now my
if we
grandmother
all-
normally my grandmother normally makes sure that she always said, well, listen, every time she go into the ground, my grandmother and my grandfather, that's why I speak about them highly, because they taught me what I know in relation to what is happening in the farm. They taught me what I know in relation to what is happening domestically. And other such matters. My grandmother always tell me, she said, boy, make sure if you don't know how to iron and cook, woman take you make precky. That's how she always said. So most of these things, most of these things I was taught. And when the day is done, it absolutely works. And when the day is done, you shine because you have knowledge as to how to take care of yourself. And yes, I've been in many circles across over time across the world where I have to be on my own and I have to take care of myself. And God bless it if I was not taught how to do these things. So yes, you're doing the right thing to teach your boys. And I think many parents need to begin to teach their boys how to be better caretakers. Because women are having a hard time now even finding good men, because boys were not taught how to clean, how to cook, how to love women, how to take care of them, how to take care of their families. Them just grow up, squirt sperm over the whole place. Whatever happens when a picnic come, them run off because some of them can't even take the responsibility. So you're doing an absolutely wonderful job to encourage that kind of behavior. So we commend you. And many more
Kenny,
parents need to take that on seriously.
I'm going to say something that might be a little bit controversial.
Go ahead.
Women, in my view, don't necessarily want men to be in the kitchen with them. A lot of women enjoy cooking and enjoy cooking for their family and can enjoy looking out for their family and stuff. What they need men to do is fix things in the house that them can't fix.
Right.
They need them to help paint the house, fix the faucet, fix the electricity.
Right.
Don't just sit down on their ass and expect to be served.
Yes.
Women don't have in my mind, women don't have a problem cooking. You are doing your part in the house. Your part don't need to be their part. Your part needs to be your part.
Well, to put it mildly, to put it mildly, some women like when their man is available and close by to help, even though she's versatile at cooking. Some women like when the man is there to pass a spoon or pass a cup or argument that kind of relationship. But yes, you're right. I think the man's job is unique in that he being either a provider or a sustainer. Should be equipped to do exactly that. And when the day is done, it provides a certain level of security to our men. But the point is, you teaching your boys to be self-reliant is absolutely critically important. And I think more of that needs to happen, especially as we move into the 21st century, and especially establishing a trend moving back into the indigenous way of life. That is absolutely serious, because we are forgetting what life was 10, 20 years ago. And everything is so modernistic now that if the light goes, everybody turn fool. You don't know how to cook anymore. and that is serious.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, we don't even know how to use coal. We can't even use coal pot. we can't even, if the electricity go and the gas goes, we're starving. Because we don't know how to we don't know how to use coal. Um, I mean, these natural skills you can't go. But you know what is important? I think we need to. When I said that I'm an health advocate, a lot of people mix up being healthy with being fit. And fit and healthy is two different things. Healthy has to
Yes.
do with how you eat and how you look after your mental mind and your physical body. So,
Yes.
going out and gardening and walking will make you healthy and will make
Yes.
you lose weight.
Yes.
Eating properly, eating good food, using coconut oil or lard or animal fat like indigenous people did will cause you to lose weight. Not eating so much, because we don't need to eat 3 meals a day. That's for sure. You know, we can easily survive on two.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
and people just need to start to research on what is healthy living and whatever they want to do. Those who want to be vegetarian, those who want to only eat fish, those who want to only eat certain types of meat. Everybody's entitled to do what they need to do. They just need to be aware of what is necessary
Yes.
for them, for their body to thrive.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
and 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 once you become then have less of effect on you, because the most thing in my mind, the biggest thing that we need to worry about is our fear.
Yes.
We have become a species that is frightened of our own shadow.
Mm. Wow.
That's a bad thing. We need to kind of try and you know bring courage and bravery back into our being.
Yes. Yes. And this
Everybody is
fear
going to
factor,
die.
the fear factor is sending everybody's like what you call it, backflipping down a hill. I mean, when the day is done,
Yeah.
I find it
I,
I find it strange.
I keep
Once you say
remembering I
COVID,
keep remembering Peter Tosh's statement. Everybody want to go to heaven, but they're
no one
afraid for
wants to
dead.
die. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Afraid for dead.
Anything that suggests that one would die, people just roll up into a ball and start rolling. And I find that very interesting, because when the day is done, where is the resilience? Where is the will to survive? Where is the will to stand to protect that which is ours? All of those talking about indigenous, that is how my parents normally live. That is how our parents normally live. Where are we now in relation to these things? And this is probably a very serious question. Are we going to fall over and die, or are we going to stand at this point in our history to live like our forefathers did in a way that is going to make sense to us? Very, very important points. I'm going to have you wrap up, my beloved brother. We have a few minutes left, and of course, as we look at self-reliance, as we look at uh, the matter of establishing our own food system, our own water system, as we look at establishing our own way of life that is going to be self-sustaining. What would you say to our people moving forward, even in an
Let me
era
say
of
this to you.
pending famine? What are you seeing?
People are saying people have a doom and gloom view of the world. Let us put things in perspective. Our great grandparents, anybody who was born between in the late 1800s, would have faced the First World War, the Spanish flu that killed 50 million people, the Great Depression, the Second World War, the dropping of the atomic bomb. All of that happened between 1918, well, 1914, I think, is when the World War started, to 1945. What are we, this generation, complaining about? We have not faced what they have faced.
Yes.
So therefore, we can look at what is happening to us. And in my mind, there is a lot of positiveness. We are learning to depend on ourselves. We are learning to question things. There, in my mind, there is a great opportunity for us as a species to move forward in a new way. Because we can't go back to the old way, because we have realized that the old systems don't work. They have failed us. We now need to create a new system, you know?
Yes.
So in my
Yes.
mind, that is where the self-reliance and us taking care of our health and going back to nature and doing things with our hands will benefit all of us. Um,
Yes.
I think we're at the cusp of something great. Or if we don't live up to the standard, that if we don't become like our ancestors and rise to the occasion, we're either going to be slaves or we're going to be non-existent. But the choice is ours. We get to choose. What we think is what we will be. That's my view. I want to believe in. My friend told me that there is. He said, "Listen, pressure builds burst pipe or build diamonds. We get to choose if it's pipe being bust or it's diamonds we're making." That's
Wow.
my question to the world. Are we building diamonds or are we going to have the pipe burst?
Wow.
The pressure is there. We just get to decide what we're going to do with it.
Well, again, that becomes a very easy question in Jamaica, I'm sure. I mean, when it is the people the people in Jamaica will sure not allow the pipe to burst. They rather make diamonds out of the pressure. You see. Either
Well, I
way,
think, listen, I think the people in the region, I think because of our history, I think
yes,
the only difference between Jamaica and the rest of the region is that we have been on the lower economic scale longer than everybody else. So we have built up a resilience. That is what happens when pressure reach you. You build a
yes,
resilience. That is how come diamonds are made. Diamonds are not made by softness, it's made by pressure. And that is where the rest of the region is now catching up with us, because they are feeling pressure that we have
they're
felt,
feeling the
not to this
pressure.
degree.
Yes, there you go, there you go.
So diamonds are going to be made. That is my view. I think we're going to make diamonds.
Wow,
We are going to be mining diamonds in years going forward.
wow. Quite optimistic indeed. I'm only hoping that the pressure will indeed people can flip the pressure and get some positives out of it. It's quite interesting as well to see how we deal with it. I'm watching some activists, especially those in Trinidad and Barbados, and it's quite interesting as they keep the pressure on. The governments are trying to probably riddle themselves out of it, but it's very interesting to watch as they keep the pressure on that side of town. In the meantime, for those of us, wherever else we are, who have clear knowledge of where we are and who we are, let us keep ourselves together and continue to find a way. And this becomes a critical matter to survive. Find a way to survive. Don't wait until things fall apart before you start putting emergency supplies in place. Get that done. Buy
Yeah, and
rice.
question everything. Don't accept things at face value. Question and see if it makes sense. That's
Yes.
why you have a brain. Question everything. There's
Buy
nothing
food
wrong
and
with
store
questioning.
it. Yes, buy food and store it, and don't just as John says. Don't just listen. Just don't take everything everybody says. You know, find out what is happening for yourself. But more than ever right now, buy food, store it, store rice, store peas, store grains, store stuff. Put it away. Don't use it. Don't tell nobody you have it. Just store it, because just in case we end up in a situation where food stop coming, at least you know you have a supply someplace
Well,
for
here's the
yourself.
thing. You can, you know, when I was young, I used to have a chicken coop. You can literally do a backyard garden, cabbage, callaloo, any of these things. Do a little pond and do some freshwater fish. You can do chickens. You really and truly don't have to worry if you prepare
That is
about
true.
starving. Yes, not be able to have your salmon, but but um but you can as long as you eat it, as long as you're not, and if you look out for each other, then you really don't need to worry because some people are going to have excess, and you can barter those excess with each other.
That is
Um,
critically important. Good point.
yeah,
Very good point. Because the more you connect with
we
your
are in a
friends, the
tropical growth reason for us to be starving.
yes, your internet service
Yes,
seem to
yes,
be
there's
going
no reason for
going
us to be starving.
your internet service seem to be going and coming at will. But the
Uh-uh.
point is, you're making some very serious points. And yes, one of the very important for us to associate with people, make friends with people who have resources that when the day is done, whatever you have, you could exchange with them, they could exchange with you, and you keep life going. Very, very important point, because that is how our forefathers lived. They bartered stuff, they exchanged stuff with each other. They distributed their food among themselves within their own village, within their own community. So everybody had. We're going right back to that place. And I'm hoping that we're preparing ourselves to not only be very clear headed about it, but to share, because we have become so selfish nowadays. Only God can help us. I tell you.
Let me give you something that I don't know if when you were in Mandeville, but in the inner city they have a thing called run boat. So
Yes, man.
when you right, so when you need to eat, one person buy rice, one person buy the yam, one person buy thing. You put all of that together, and everybody who contribute, they them and their family eat out of the pot. There are
Coming
ways.
together to survive. Very important point to make it.
Exactly. We don't have to be afraid of what is happening in the world because our culture is different. We can easily come together and walk through this. We did it
Wow.
before. We did it before. What do you think happened? What do you think was happening in the region during World War II? Did they not have rations?
There you go.
It
Wow.
has happened to us before.
There you go. There you go.
The biggest thing we need to fight against is fear.
Fair. I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. John, it means a lot having you here. And of course, as things develop and as we move forward, I'm sure we'll be having you to come back again. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And of course, well taken. Thank you a million. Means a
Ken,
lot.
you're doing a great job. I've been listening to you. And as a matter of fact, as I said, I'm so glad that you told me about this because I'm going to be walking around and checking to see what
Yeah, man. And whatever you do, you take care of yourself, my brother. We keep in touch. Keep it strong, okay?
Yes, you too. Take care. Thanks.
Okay, my brother. Good. There was a point I made earlier, and it is something that I'm sure most of you would want to do. I'm going to say this again before I go, for those of you who came in after the program began. Um, let me show you. This is my reading, and I'm trying to avoid the light on the screen so you see it properly. This is called Electrosmart. Electrosmart. It's an EMF detector. The levels in around you, wherever you are. This is an EMF detector. And what it does, it measures the. You can download it on your phone. You can go on the App Store and download Electrosmart EMF detector. That one is a good one. And they're not paying me for advertisement. I think it's a good app, and I think most of us need to download it so you can check your level of EMF in your area where you live. For example, if you're in a house and you have a modem, and the modem is always transmitting, you may not find it uh, 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 difficult to handle now, because most people may not even be sensitive to it. But as the frequencies rise, as they move from 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, the denser the frequency gets, it will definitely, by virtue of your exposure to it, your cells will begin to respond. If the French Prime Minister actually asked one telecommunication company to turn off the 4G transmitters, turn it off because it was affecting their cows. The cows not giving milk, and some of them were dying. Now, if cows are dying, then we need to look about our health. And when the day is done, measure the frequency, make sure that you are safe. If you're close to a transmitter in your house, your modem, move away from it if you can, or put it at a distance from you, so you do not expose yourself to high levels. If you are in an area that is densely populated and the frequency is high, and you check your thing and you see a 75-80% transmission rate, then it means you probably need to move or something. Because when the day is done, if you have high transmission frequencies around you, or transmission rate, then it means that something may happen soon. Many people are coming down with tetanus and can't sleep at night, and all kinds of things are happening as a result of this. This is not what you call it, conspiracy theory. This is real. So I'm just saying this to those of you who may want to download the app. Download the app and make sure that you monitor your exposure level to keep yourself safe. Thank you again for joining us. And of course, it's always a pleasure having you right here on PSI TV. The Raw Truth happens every Monday evening at 8. And that is where we are in this side of the world. Always stay connected with us so you can at least verify the time in your country via the link. All right. The very best to you. Take care of yourselves and keep it safe and strong till we catch up next week, Monday. Thank you so much for being a part of this program this evening. Please subscribe and share. Keep yourself connected. Very best until next Monday.
Money is the root of all evil. Oh yeah. I don't know if I sell them birthright and I sell out the people now. Some of them are kill and maim and some are rob all the people. Oh yeah. But Judge are not sleep and he man go take them out. Hey, it's the system